Today, I wanted to make a comprehensive guide on all the basics of Final Fantasy XIV that I could think of so you don't end up looking like this. Preemptive warning here, this video is going to be long as shit. So I have put chapters in the YouTube video to help organize the information. So if there's something you are interested in and you don't want to listen to the whole entire video, you can just look through the little chapters and figure out exactly where you want to go. What up? My name is Astro, and today I'm going to be bringing you a comprehensive guide on Final Fantasy. Before we get into the video at all, I just want to mention that there is a free trial of Final Fantasy XIV. So before you buy the game, you can play it all the way up to the first expansion, Heaven's Ward, without paying anything. Alright, first things first, you're going to be prompted to choose a data center as soon as you log into the game. Data centers are your main server hubs. Inside the data centers, you're going to have something called homeworlds. Now, it's very important to understand that you cannot move between data centers without paying money. However, if you have friends on different homeworlds, you can temporarily go to that homeworld and spend time there and then move back to your original homeworld. So if you're planning to play with friends, make sure you guys are all at least on the same data center so you don't end up in this situation. Okay, so once you've chosen a data center, we will move on to character selection. Final Fantasy XIV currently has 8 different races to pick from. So you have your standard 2 human and elf races, but then you also have your potato race, you have your cat race, which is the best race ever if you ask me. Then you have your big burly OP big guy race that I don't know how to explain. And then you got your Dragonkin race. Then you also have your Chad Hrothgar and your Bunny Girl Viera race. However, the Hrothgar and the Viera race you can only get from Shadowbringers. So if you want to play those races, make sure that you have Shadowbringers purchased. Important to know here, each race also has 2 different sub races to pick from that make them look slightly different. Now they do have a stat difference, but the stat difference is so minimal that it doesn't make a difference. You get like a 5-point stat difference, and just to put that in perspective, when you're getting gear late game, you're gonna be at stats levels of 3,000 plus, so that 5 is really not gonna make a difference between whether you're pumping big DPS or being a live lord as a tank or being like the biggest Chad healer ever. So realistically, just pick it based off what looks cool. The stats are really not gonna make that big of a difference. After you've chosen the race you like, you can start customizing your character and making them look super cool. Just remember, all those hours you spend on the face may just be covered by a helmet. After this, you'll be prompted with 2 things. First, the birth date of your character, and then your patron deity. The birth date you select is purely for RP purposes, so it does not make a difference on your character. And the patron deity does give you specific elemental resistances. However, like the sub races, the elemental resistances really don't make a difference, so I would also say this would be more for RP purposes or preference. Now that you've gone through all of that, it's time to pick your class. In Final Fantasy XIV, they don't call classes classes, they actually call them jobs. So there are 3 types of jobs in Final Fantasy. It basically just follows the Holy Trinity, where you have a tank, DPS, and healer. In dungeon compositions, you actually only have 4 people, so you have a tank, a healer, and 2 DPS. Something that's really cool about Final Fantasy XIV is that all your jobs are on one character. So your character can wield multiple different classes and multiple different roles just at a swap of a hat. Like right now, I am a badass tank, and then all of a sudden I can switch to a healer and control whether my party lives or dies. Or I can switch to a DPS and pump some big damage and kill the boss really, really fast. I think this is a great thing for new players because it makes your decision on the job really not that punishing because you can swap between jobs whenever you want. So these are only the basic jobs. They've added so many more jobs into the game. I'll show you how to get the new jobs as well as switch to other jobs in a later section of this video, but just know these are just the basic jobs. One more thing to mention before I get into the actual jobs. At level 30, all of these jobs have a Pokemon evolution phase where they turn into a stronger version of the job and their name changes. As you can see here, the first job on the list is Gladiator. Gladiator is your classic sword and board tank. At level 30, Gladiator turns into Paladin, and they are more focused on damage mitigation and AoE attacks. The next one on our list is the Pugilist job. The Pugilist job is your melee, fist fighting, combat style class. This job is really cool because it is very martial arts focused, as well as positioning based. So depending on where you're standing in regards to your opponent, that's where you do more damage. Our second tank on this list is Marauder, and Marauder will turn into Warrior. Marauder is not your standard warrior class because they use a two-handed axe full of chattery to swing heads off their opponents and tank everything in their way. Next up is Lancer, which turns into Dragoon at level 30, which is your spear-wielding, dragon-fighting, flipping, flying class, also known as the floor tank because they die a lot due to animation locks in their abilities, so just keep that in mind. From there, we have Archer. As you can imagine, Archer is your bow range class that turned into Bard at level 30, and this is no average range class because the Bard has so many utilities for the team that it helps out significantly. Now we move on to the magic caster classes. First up on our magic list is our healer Conjurer. Conjurer at level 30 turns into White Mage. White Mage is your very classic healer class that is reactive healing as well as doing big damage. After Conjurer, we have Thaumaturge, which turns into Black Mage at level 30, which uses elemental damage to kill their opponents through magical spells. Black Mage is known for having one of the highest damage potentials with super big dick energy. Then lastly, we have Arcanist. Arcanist is cool because at level 30, you can be both a summoner or a scholar. Summoner is a magic DPS class that summons a minion to help do a lot of damage. Scholar is going to be our second healing job that more focuses on shields and burst healing instead of consistent healing like the White Mage. If you are playing with friends, it is important to note that the class you pick determines what main city you will start off for the main story quest. It'll eventually culminate together, but just know that you will be separated for a certain amount of time. Once you have created your character, it is time to log in and explore the world of Eorzea. So let's first go into the UI of the game so we understand the functionalities of Final Fantasy XIV. So let's start off with the pure basics. You move on computer with WASD and you have your mouse to change the camera angles. Q and E are used to strafe on your character, Q going left and E going right. I prefer to do all my turns with my camera and strafe with A and D, so then I can use Q and E for abilities. So if you'd like to set it up that way, it might be helpful. If you turn your attention to the bottom of the screen, you will see a couple things. There's a green bar indicating your health pool points, a red bar indicating your mana points, and underneath that, your XP level and job. Now, if we glance over to the right, you can see several different options available. The first thing we're going to look at is the character option, which is the circle farthest to the left. This will let you see everything to do with your character as well as customization. So you can see the stats of your character, what jobs you have available, what items you have in your inventory, and then also what items you have in your armory. So it's important to distinguish between inventory and armory. Inventory is your basic items. Meanwhile, armory is going to be all your weapons and armor you use on your character. It's really nice because they separate it so you don't have to go digging through your bags to find certain pieces of gear. Lastly, you have your abilities tab, which shows you the exact abilities that your character can use, as well as abilities you can use in the future, and emotes and macros as well. Next up is the duty tab. The duty tab is basically your queue finder for all types of different content in Final Fantasy XIV. This is unlocked at around level 15 when you complete the main story quest that allows you to use the duty finder. For now, it won't make a huge difference for you, but just know when you do need to use the duty finder, that's how you do it. After duty finder, we have the log option. The log option shows you all kinds of recordings for information about your character in Final Fantasy XIV. In the log option, you have logs for hunting, crafting and gathering, and your journal. So the hunting logs are basically achievements that once you complete the achievement, you are rewarded with EXP to level up the job associated with it faster. The crafting log will show you exactly how to craft objects, and you can craft them in that window. Meanwhile, the gathering log will show you exactly where to gather objects once you have collected them. Same thing with the fishing log. The fishing log will show you exactly what fish you can catch in certain areas. Your journal is basically just your quest log. So if you ever need to reference your quest or figure out, what quests you're on, you can go ahead and use the journal. Next up, you have the travel option. The travel option is basically going to be your fast travels for Final Fantasy XIV. Now, there's two ways to use fast travel. One is through the map feature, which lets you look at different points in the map and select a certain place you want to go to. Meanwhile, the teleport option gives you a list of locations that you can go to and teleport to. Now, you're not going to have any of these points unlocked right off the bat. So what you want to do is go to these giant crystals and right click so you can sell your soul to the aetheryte gods so you can gotta go fast. Make sure you do this with every aetheryte you see because you have to attune to it in order to fast travel to it. So a very important tip here is to set a home point for your aetheryte. This is really important because to fast travel it costs gil, and obviously when you're starting off in the game you're not going to have a lot of gil, so you want to make sure that you use that home point because it's free to teleport to the home point whenever you use it. Also, I forgot to mention, gil is the currency used in Final Fantasy, so it's equivalent of gold and silver in other MMOs. Alright, so let's move on to the party finder option. People generally use the party finder option to create groups for content that you can't really do inside the duty finder. This is more for like item farming or collecting or anything like that. Additionally, the hardest content in Final Fantasy is done through group finder rather than duty finder, so that's another use for it. Next up is the social option. So as you can imagine, the social option basically manages your guild, known as a free company, your friends list, your block list, and also allows you to search for players. If you guys are interested in figuring out how to join a free company or a guild in Final Fantasy XIV, I have made a video on that, so you can go ahead and click the link here and it'll take you to that video. Lastly is the options option. option. Basically, this allows you to change the graphics of the game, your keybinds, your HUD, anything that you would do in the general settings of a game. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's move on to the main story of the game. So once you log into the game, the first thing you're going to be prompted to do is follow along the main story questline. The main story questline, also known as the MSQ, is going to be the main guiding force for you in your Final Fantasy XIV experience. You can tell a quest is part of the main story questline when it shows this icon. It kind of looks like a little meteor star gold thing. Another important tip here is that if you ever get lost or can't figure out where you need to go for the main story questline, or you've lost track of where the next main story questline quest is, if you look at the top left of your screen, you will see the current main story questline that you're on. So you just click that and it'll direct you exactly where you need to go, where you need to talk to, if you need to kill something. That'll help you out the most. While you're following around the main story questline, you'll also notice that there are two other types of quests that you're going to encounter. One of those is an unlock quest, which is symbolized by this blue looking icon, as well as side quests, which is symbolized by this gold looking icon. So the blue unlock quests do exactly what they say. They generally unlock something for you in the game that you can access after completing the quest. So I would recommend doing these alongside the main story questline so that you have everything unlocked while you're going through the game. And dude, trust me, there is so much stuff to unlock, so you might as well do it while you're doing the main story questline so you don't have to track back afterwards. The side quests are more for story purposes and RP purposes, so you could go the whole entire game without doing the side quests. However, if you're interested in the story or you want more information about the world of Eorzea, this is a great way to do that. Now that you're going through the story, let's talk about a highly debated portion of Final Fantasy XIV, which is the combat. So at a glance, Final Fantasy XIV follows the general MMO tab target formula, where you click on an enemy, click your abilities, your enemies go to that targeted enemy, and it does damage. When you do cast a spell or an ability, you'll notice that you have a cooldown of 2.5 seconds. This is known as Final Fantasy's 2.5 second global cooldown. During this time, you cannot press another ability for 2.5 seconds. However, there is an exception to this rule. Final Fantasy has certain abilities called off global cooldown abilities, which are not affected by the global cooldown. So as you can see here, some of my abilities are refreshing, but I can still press certain abilities because they are off global cooldown. So the idea here is you want to cast one global cooldown ability, and then in between the next global cooldown ability during that 2.5 second window, you want to weave in two off global cooldown abilities. Since you're probably early on in the game, you're probably hearing me and thinking, what is this guy talking about? I literally have 3 global cooldown abilities and nothing else. That's kind of the debated part about Final Fantasy's combat, is that early on it's really dry because you only get global cooldown abilities and they're very, very slow paced. My suggestion here would be to learn the combo as best you can so that when you do get your off global cooldowns, you'll know how to use them in between. You can tell how to do a combo with your job when you press a certain ability and you see another one light up. That means that is the next ability you want to use in the combo. Generally, these combos are 3 abilities, but depending on where you are in levels, it could be shorter just for now. So in short, it's going to be a little bit boring in the beginning because your global cooldown experience is going to look like this. But as you start to get off global cooldown abilities, you can weave them in between the global cooldown abilities. Just make sure you do not do more than 2. That is called clipping, which is an advanced topic I'll talk more about another day. So you're going through the MSQ a little bit and you've tried out the class, but you're wondering, what else could I try? I want to try something else. How do I do that? So let's talk about trying other jobs. Like I said earlier, the really nice thing about Final Fantasy XIV is you can play every single job on one character. You don't need to make another character to try out another job. So the way you go and try another job is that you want to go to the guild master of the job you are trying to learn. So for example, I've just arrived at the Lancers Guild and I'm going to talk to the guild master of the Lancers Guild to pick up the quest in order to become a Lancer. Go ahead and complete that quest and the guild master will give you the ability to now play the job you are looking for. Simple as that, you are now playing a new job. So the way that you change between jobs is you have to equip the weapon of the job in order to play that job. This would be done in the armory. Something that makes this process a lot easier so you don't have to equip all the items all over again is creating a set. So you can create a set for specific jobs so you can swap straight on the fly. So the way you do this is you want to pull up your character tab, and from there, above the picture of the character, you see 3 little squares. You want to pick the one that says gear set list, the one that is on the most right. From there, you can go ahead and create the set for the job you are playing, and then if you hit that little refresh button, it'll go ahead and save any changes you have to the job. Another cool thing while we're in this section is that you can actually add recommended gear on your character. So if you hit the most left icon, it'll suggest the gear that is the best for your character at your level and your job, and then you can go ahead and put that on and then refresh again to save that. Now, another little tip that's kind of cool is if you look at a lot of videos of other Final Fantasy players, you'll see that they have hotkeys for the class changes they want. So if you go ahead and click and drag the set that you saved, you can put it on your hotbar so you can switch even faster between jobs. This saves so much time because otherwise you have to equip the weapon and then you have to look through and equip each individual piece of armor. So if you just have everything saved, you are bound to save a bunch of time. Naturally, once you've got your new job, you'll realize that the MSQ is actually level based. So when you start at level 1, you might not be able to complete that level 15 MSQ quest. So there has to be a way to catch up in levels in order to catch up to the MSQ if this is the job you want to play. So let's go over some alternative methods outside of the MSQ to level. On every job, the first thing you're going to want to do is the hunting log. So I mentioned the hunting log in the UI portion of this video, but the hunting log is basically a set of achievements for killing monsters that gives you EXP. So in order to pull up the hunting log, simply press H on the keyboard or press the log options and go to hunting log from there. Now that we're in the hunting log, let's direct our attention to the leftmost side of the hunting log where we're going to select our job that we are trying to level. There are some other options there that I'll talk more about later in the video, but for now, let's focus on the job. So in the hunting log, you'll see several creatures that you have to hunt down and kill. It'll tell you the location as well as where on the map you can find this creature. So you have to go hunt them down and make sure you get them for that EXP. Now, also in the UI portion of this video, I mentioned about the duty finder. So once you hit around level 15 and you've unlocked it in the MSQ, you can go ahead and use the duty finder to queue up for dungeons, guild tests, or trials depending on what level your character is so that you can level up faster too. In the duty finder, you'll find something called roulettes. Roulettes are basically random duties that you queue for in order to get more gil and more EXP. So my suggestion here would be to queue up for duties while you're waiting for the duty queues to pop. You can go ahead and complete more and more of the hunting log. You'll be happy to know certain jobs start off at higher levels when you pick them up. So for example, Dark Knight, Scholar, and Machinist all start at level 30, Samurai is level 50. So you won't have to do too much of the leveling process early if you do pick up those jobs. We all know a pinnacle portion of MMORPGs is getting your mount. So let's talk about how you can become eligible to ride mounts and how you can get your first mount and how you can even fight with your mount as a companion. So in order to unlock your chocobo, you have to first complete the main story quest, A Hero in the Making, and the quest after that. Depending on the grand company you choose, the title of that quest is going to be different. However, just know that you have to complete A Hero in the Making and the quest after that. Once you have done that, you will be eligible for a blue unlock quest called My Little Chocobo, and this is the quest that unlocks the ability to ride mounts, as well as give you your first mount called a chocobo. You can find this quest from your Grand Company commander, they will give it to you. So once you've accepted the quest, you have to buy something called chocobo insurance, which costs 200 Grand Company seals. A quick way to get these Grand Company seals is by doing the hunting log for your Grand Company. Remember how earlier I talked about how you can do hunting logs for your job? You can also do them specifically for the Grand Company. Additionally, you can do little events around the map called fates in order to get the Grand Company seals. So depending on which way you want to do it, all you got to do is get 200 Grand Company seals and turn them into the chocobo keeper. You will then receive a chocobo whistle, which you can use to summon your first mount. Congratulations. Just know that you can't use your mount inside a main city, so if you're trying to use the whistle, as soon as you get it, you probably have to go outside in order to use it. Now, another cool thing that you can do is summon your chocobo to fight with you. So you can choose a style for your chocobo, whether it be healer, DPS, or tank. So let's talk about how to do that. So in order to start this quest, you have to be at least level 30. Once you hit level 30, you want to head over to Deset in the Southern Shroud at Camp Tranquil. She'll have a quest called My Feisty Little Chocobo. From there, you want to head north to talk to Laquella to continue on the quest. Laquella is going to make you collect these Geishel greens. Once you've collected them, hand them back to Laquella and you've completed the quest. So now, whenever you want to summon your chocobo as a companion, you have to use the Geishel greens to call it out. The chocobo will stay with you for 30 minutes and then you have to re-summon them. Another interesting thing, like I mentioned earlier, is if you go into the chocobo menu, you can actually select what type of chocobo you want to use. You can use a tank, DPS, or a healer. So depending on what job you're leveling up, it might be helpful to pick a certain type of chocobo. Alright, and then last but not least, I'm going to show you how to use Glamour. Glamour is basically making your armor that you have currently equipped look like other pieces of armor. This is really nice if you like a particular piece of armor, but it's low level and your other gear is better looking, or you want to put on a certain set. It really lets you customize your character and make them look super cool. So in order to start this quest, you have to be level 15 and you want to go to Swirgheim in Vesper Bay. This is like right outside the Waking Sands where you do a lot of the main story quests. You want to pick up 2 quests from her. If I had a Glamour, that's the first quest that allows you to use Glamour and change what your armor looks like, and then also Color the World, which lets you use dyes so that you can make your armor look different colors so it looks unique. Once you've completed the quest, you can use your Glamour and dyes 2 different ways. The first one is going into your character sheet and looking at the individual pieces of gear. If you right click the piece of gear and it is able to use Glamour and dye, when you right click it, you'll see an option to say cast Glamour, or you'll have an option to say dye. When you cast Glamour on that object, you can see all the available armors that you can use to change into something else. In order to make any change to your Glamour, you need something called a Glamour Prism, which you can also buy from the Grand Company with Grand Company seals. So that's a good way to get them pretty quickly. The second way to do this is to rent a room at an inn and use the Glamour station they have there. So the first thing you'll see at the Glamour station is the Glamour Dresser. So the Glamour Dresser enables you to make something called a Glamour Plate, which is essentially a gear set that you can use to change your character on the fly. In order to do this, you want to head over to the Glamour Dresser and you want to select certain items and put them inside the Glamour Dresser. From there, you want to select the Glamour Plate option and create a Glamour Plate. So in order to use your Glamour Plate, you want to go to your character sheet, and we're going to reference those 3 little boxes at the top left of your character again. This one we're going to go for is the middle box, which looks kind of like a plate. So when you click this, you can go ahead and select through the different Glamour Plates that you have. The really nice thing about this is it does not require Glamour Prisms to switch between Glamour Plates. So you can switch between them as much as you want without any cost. But that's pretty much all I had for beginner players right now. I might make another video if you guys find this helpful. If you guys did find this helpful, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and like this video. I do provide a lot more MMORPG content with a main focus right now in Final Fantasy XIV. And you guys want to catch me on Twitch, I stream every once in a while on twitch.tv/Astro. So if you guys go ahead and follow me there, that would be greatly appreciated. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will catch you guys next time. Peace.